also wanted to sit in the circle. Those of you who don't know me, that's me. I'm Elvira Kalmar, and most of my time I spend with organizations and developing organizations and teaching other people how to develop mainly their own organizations and teams. We also have, together with Solution Surfers, we've created a course, which is one of the 9 accredited courses worldwide. It's an organization design course, but we are, out of the 9 providers, the only one who actually teaching it in a solution-focused way. So our kind of flagship program is a 10-day program where in-company people and externals who are coaches, OD professionals, can come and learn the absolute necessary skills I would say that today's organizations need inside them to be able to be adaptive, to be able to change fast, and to do that in a preferably new way, in a more modern way that fits to more our times and not in a traditional way. So that's the program we have been running now, and having it accredited, it means that people who complete it, then they just need the necessary hours, practice hours, and they themselves can become certified. Now, recently we even have a build-up course, the Mastering Change, which provides further deepening knowledge, so I'm not getting there. So that's what I'm mainly doing. And where you are sitting today, it's also the official book launch event. You might not have known that. But here it is, and actually there's going to be 2 books, but this first one is really about summarizing the theoretical background and summarizing tools that we can use in organizations to support the evolution of the individuals and teams. And I gave the title of this workshop also, how we can scale solution-focused coaching tools to a company level. And one of the reasons for that was that I really would like to give you a little bit like a glimpse into what's in the book, what kind of tools, stories we have in the book, and also to hopefully widen the picture that we can take solution focus into the life of organizations in a lot more wide variety way, not just by using coaching, solution-focused coaching in the organization. So that's basically my passion, and that's what I'm spending most of the time with. And I would like to start immediately with a tool and put it into the context also why I picked this tool. You see actually the visuals are already the very nice graphics that are coming from the book. Especially as an external OD professional, way too often I get called into situations which are about a problem. Yeah? And organizations actually take some time to elaborate on it and figure out what their problem is, and then they are trying to find the right professional who they think can come and solve their problem or help them solve their problem the best. So then we come in and say that, we would like to contract for the preferred future, yeah? What would it be? But they are focused on this problem. And what I thought is I'll show you the tool I really like using in this situation, which is probably super familiar for you from the coaching context. Looking back into the past and using the life path and asking in individual coaching the person we are working with to look back at their life, look at the ups and downs. I really like using this tool. I learned it from Ludmila Doneman, and she used it for Aboriginal women who lost their husbands and they had to find a job because they became the sole breadwinners in their families. And most of them were saying that they never worked in their life. So how are they going to find a job? And she used this methodology to help them look back at their life and identify resources that they can translate into the work life. So that's a tool I really like using, and of course it works wonderfully in a coaching situation. One of my favorite stories about it is that a lady whose company got sold, but she had to stay the managing director for a while, asked for a coaching. Actually, it was her husband who asked me to coach his wife because she burned out. And she came to the first session, and she said that whenever she thinks about her work or the workplace, she just has this crying coming out of her, and she can't help it, and that's her only reaction to it. So we were trying to talk a little bit about the preferred future and how would it be if she wouldn't be burnt out and stressed anymore. And she could say a few things, but as a farewell thing, we agreed that maybe for the next session, she comes prepared and she looks back on her life and just reflects on the ups and downs and what resources she collected. So in the next session, we can start building on those resources. And then she came back to the next session, smiling like a different person. And she said that, oh, that was the most useful exercise she ever had in her life, looking back, because she realized that as I was explaining, there's a line and there are ups and downs, and she realized that in her life she's never been below. Her life was kind of moving around between the 100 and the 80%, and even this burnout was, it was a deep 80, but it's not a 0 or below. And she said, okay, so she's very good now. She started exercising, she took on some other things, and so it was about signs of progress, and there was no more coaching needed. So my best hope today is that I'll bring tools like this into our focus, and I would like to invite you to share your experiences and maybe also fantasize a little bit how we could scale these tools up to a company level. So, first of all, this is my best hope. But of course, it would be interesting, what is your best hope to get out from this session while you are sitting here? So I would like to ask you just to turn to your pair. Yeah, now you got a little context, and if this is a super useful 90 minutes for you, what difference would you like to notice at the end? Wow, that's a hell of a lot of best hopes to cater for, yeah? So please do look after yourself that you get out from the session what you are hoping for, which means do ask questions, yeah? And I'm also planning to ask a lot of questions. So, coming back to the book and the tools and the story. So, the book is, of course, written not just for people like you, but people who never heard about solution focus and never heard about or never learned about coaching. So this is actually a tool they can start using. There's an explanation how to do it, how to use it in a one-to-one situation, so that, for example, as a leader, you contract with your people for their preferred future, and you contract how the work can support them. But of course, I'm doing that so that I'm introducing these tools so that later when we get to the whole organizational level, they are already familiar with the concepts. And that's what I would like to do here as well. So you heard the story of the lady who was burned out and suddenly just looking back into the lifeline, even without doing the other parts, it changed her context completely. And suddenly she was not burnt out anymore, and suddenly her focus was somewhere else. So how could we use this? Or how are you already using this concept of looking back into the past and changing the problem focus to more of a focus of the evolution on a company level? Yeah? So, where I would like to invite you to continue this good conversation that we've just started. Now we go into fours, yeah? So the twos are joining together. And the question is, if you are already working with companies or larger teams, how are you applying this concept just of looking back into the future, or future into the past? And how is that? How do you do it actually, exactly, concretely? Yeah? What are the steps, or what tools do you use? Or if you are not doing it yet, and that's why you came into this workshop, because you thought I will tell you, first think about how would you use this concept. So think about it that now you're addressing a whole organization. It can be a small or a medium-sized organization or a few 100,000 people working in a company. How would you bring in this looking back into the past and arriving into seeing their evolution instead of seeing their problem? Yeah? 10 minutes I thought will be enough for this, but it might be a little bit more. I will try to use my bottle to signal when I think the conversation is over. So I really hope that you had an opportunity to look back to some good memories where you've already used this concept, and maybe also had the opportunity to ideate a little bit of how else and what else would be possible. And of course, we could just spend this whole afternoon collecting all the wonderful ideas and practices, but we're not going to do that now. So you just have to live with the experiences and ideas of the 3-4 people that you share this with. I would like to tell you 2 things about this, why I brought this little tool into here now, because I find it extremely important when we start the process. You see, in the solution focus way, we say always start with the end in mind, yeah? But I used to be a long jumper, so an athlete, and I was doing long jumps. And I know that when you stand and you have to jump, you can jump maybe a meter and a half from standing, yeah? And this is what happens when we immediately go in and ask the question, yeah, I mean, what would you like to have instead? Or what's your preferred future? Why do you want to have an OD process? What outcome would be? Then we are asking them from the standing. And from the standing, what comes out preferred future is like jumping from the standing. And it will be very much related to the problem they are currently experiencing. So the inefficiency, the lack of initiative, I can tell you thousands of it. Yeah? But if you have a good run up, yeah, and I know that if you're really fast and you can make a good jump, I could jump 5.5 meters. Some people you see on the Olympics, it's even over 8 meters, yeah? So from a good run up, it's a different distance and a different level of imagination and different preferred future that comes out. So I really like to squeeze this little thing in at lots of different places. Already at the first interaction, ask a little bit. It's like I'm just asking some history of the company. Yeah. So when did it start? How did it? Who was it? How old is? Or the unit. Or if I have this many people in the room and you would be working for the same company, I definitely would make sure that you stand in a row from based on when did you arrive to the company, and we would go around and we would probably interview you, how was it at the beginning, and then later when you arrived, what was the company doing, how many of us were there. And then so by the time we arrive to the late arrivals, we would have the whole history of the companies in the room, which was already a fantastic run-up. So from there, asking the question of and what would be the next level in your evolution is a very different quality of preferred future than what comes up from the standing. And with that, we're also taking another important principle, coaching the person in the individual coaching instead of the problem. Here now we will be able to support the organization instead of trying to help them to solve their current problem. Yeah, so that's a small tool that can be scaled up, and it really changes the whole process right from the beginning. Because I talk about organization, development, and design, I'm going to sit down so I don't preach to you, but just tell you. Teaching it for 5 years now, and having some students who ask lots of very good questions, like Fabian, who's sitting here, asking that, what are we talking about really? What is our real question? It really led to an understanding that the traditional definitions of organization development and organization design, and I'm not going to tell you even what they are outdated. They are coming from the time when organizations changed every 3, 4, 5 years maybe. We used to set strategies for 10, 15 years. That's not the life we are living today. So how we are developing them or how we are designing them, especially with organization design, you often have that people still have. And I've been around in that community as well, so I know that still the majority of the professionals, the practitioners are thinking, we as externals are coming in to design you a new organization that is better than your old one was. Yeah. And then you get the traditional transformations where the solution is designed by God knows who, and then you have to implement it, and then you have to change manage it, and you have to support it with wonderful coaching programs so that the loss is less and the pain is less. And we know that it can be done differently. And the difference is that because to develop an organization or to design an organization is not happening anymore how it used to be. Unknowingly or unconsciously, every single person who is working in an organization, developing and designing it every single day. Because it's not about to design an organization, but actually every organization has its current design. And that current design is our agreements about 2 things. What is the work that we have to do now, not in general, that's also important, but also broken down to the now, and how are we going to do that. And there are lots of agreements around these. Some are explicit, but there are a lot of implicit agreements also that we never talk about. For example, who can make decisions in an organization? We just assume. Yeah? So there are a lot of assumptions. And these agreements are always there in every organization, or they are not there, but that's also an agreement that we don't agree about them. Yeah? And whenever the people in the organization make new agreements about this topic, they are actually developing their own organization. Yeah? So it's not only developing when the externals come, when we start a leadership development program or we do a coaching program, they are developing every day. Just they might not be aware of that. Yeah? So that's kind of the definition we are using, and that's why we think that it's super important that we empower the people who are making these agreements every day with the necessary tools, so they have a tool set where they can kind of reach out and say, oh, we could make these agreements better, instead of saying, oh, we need collaboration workshops, or we need to redesign our new processes. So they should have the tools and do it by themselves. Somebody is supporting us from outside very nicely with the subtitles, yeah? I don't know in which language. So, of course, to sophisticate these 2 topics, what is the work we have to do now and how we are going to do it, we can use the organization design's basic model, and this is what we are using also, because actually the purpose of the organization gets put into it by the founders. Yeah, it's like the DNA of the organization. Why was it established? Even if it was done 100 or 550 years ago, I had some clients like that. The purpose, while the company exists, and the basic values get implemented. That's the DNA planted by the founders. But the strategy, that's what we forget, that's changing now every year almost. Yeah? It's not like we used to design them for 15 years and then we just checked on it if it's still valid. And even having a plan for a full year might be an ambitious thing nowadays in some industries. So you have to break it down even to shorter and shorter periods and then make these agreements. What is the work we have to do now is super important, because what we do in the first quarter might be very different than what we do in the third quarter. Okay? I'm not going into greater details, but the rest of the agreements, the rest of the topics are about the how. Yeah? The processes, the decision making, what kind of governance we want to have, structure, reinforcement, you see, reinforcement, not reward, and people. And all these, our agreements, will actually define greatly how people behave in an organization. And how they behave will define the performance of the people and the organization, and the culture of the organization, which is connected back to the purpose and the values that the initial founders would have put in. So, we're talking a little bit about, I'll come back to this a bit. So I was bringing in this tool and telling you that, we start before we start, or to look back into the past of the organization widens the horizon, and instead of looking into just focusing on the problem and solving it, we help them to see their own evolution, and then the preferred future actually comes in a different quality. And of course, I would like to focus now on the preferred future topic a little bit. I don't have to ask what questions we ask, because that's what we are constantly doing, all of us, in different setups. But my question is, in the case of an organization, whom should we ask about their preferred future? So again, I would like to tap back into your experience or into your fantasy also. But I also would like to ask you to kind of stand up and move around and create a different group. Yeah? Whom would you ask about their preferred future? With whom you should have this conversation? Yeah, think about different scenarios and think about, who should it be? Because, in a one-to-one coaching, it's very obvious. In the case of an organization, maybe not so obvious. What we are talking about is actually the ideal solution-focused organization development and design process. And we're still right at this very beginning of the process with what we are covering here right now. So what is it that they would like to have instead of what they have now is kind of the cover question, but behind that is already the run-up and the preferred future, and it depends with whom you're going to have the initial contact. They will have some, so you can already do some looking back, and they will have some idea what they want. But the real trick is, even though it's called contracting the phase, it's not about us, whether we're internal, external, supported. It's not about us contracting with them. It's about them contracting with each other, those who have to contract with each other in order to make that thing happen. So that's a very good point of it depends. Depends on what? Depends on who will be influenced by it, who has to be part of it to create that change or that difference that we are working on. And therefore, contracting and talking about the preferred future is never a one act in organization development or design. So when we work with larger systems, what we notice is that we have the initial conversation, then we have maybe we manage to talk, like we recently had a wonderful opportunity with the 2 CEOs of a company. They had their preferred future. But then we said, before we design a process, why don't we have a little bit of a larger circle? What would your direct reports say if they would sit here? And they said, well, I'm not sure, maybe what we say, maybe something else. So we had a small mini workshop, which was actually about creating space for them to start thinking about and contracting with each other for the preferred future before we even start designing a process, how they could get there. Yeah.
So and by mini workshop, what do you mean? How
3 hours. Yeah. Yeah. So that they could talk about it, they could look back also. So we've already done that with the 2, now we did that with the 9 people again. And you see the difference, and they see also the difference in the answers and in the understanding what the real topic is. And initially, as I said, often the problems come up, and when you widen the circle, it's more and more what comes up is what is needed so that we as a company, as a system, elevate to the next level. And ask, It's good if you are asking a question, okay? You were there on that workshop, so yeah. That's not a built-in question.
In that contracting phase, we just ended up discussing, are we involving our clients, customers as well, in the creating space for designing, getting a picture of our preferred future? Do you have any experience with that?
Yes, and ideally we would. Often, and I'll get there in a minute also, often that's not imaginable at the beginning of a process. So we're just having this issue, we want to solve it. So kind of saying, yeah, but we should involve your clients and customers and ask them like, oh, yeah, so it's too much. But of course, with our questions, we can bring in. So I mean, my favorite question about the preferred future is first of all, if it's a level better or you move forward or the whole company is on the next level, the first thing is what would your clients notice as a result of that? If nothing, don't waste your time and energy on organization development. Yeah? And then secondly, if you know what your clients will notice, what difference, then what difference would your colleagues, the people working with them, notice? So what would be different on that next level? So that's how we can bring initially the clients in. Yeah? Thank you for that question. I want to go a little bit deeper into the it depends. Yeah? Is that okay? Because it sounds good, it depends, yeah? But depends on what? On a few things, and there is one thing that we're mostly not aware of. And probably everybody knows Douglas McGregor's theory X and theory Y. It's a really old theory, but it's very good because, I mean, we could use, for example, Carol Dweck's growth mindset and fixed mindset. But why I really love the McGregor thing, because he actually talks about people's beliefs about other people's attitude to work. Basically what it is, it says, if you know, so the theory X people, they are the ones who don't believe anybody would do anything if we wouldn't stand by them with our whips and tell them what to do, micromanage, check on them, and they wouldn't do anything, said with the leash. And theory Y is the complete opposite, that we trust that people are self-motivated and they come to work because they want to contribute to the shared goals and the shared value creation, and they can manage their time and work and all that, yeah? I'm not going to read it, it's on the slide. But anyway, you get the idea. And of course, McGregor thought, nice boxing idea, that you're either or, yeah? And we know that everything has at least 50 different shades. So I would like to imagine this and invite you also to put it on a scale. And one end of the scale is X, the very strong X mindset. I will stand here to represent it, where I really believe that I have to stand by the people, I have to watch them, I have to monitor them clearly to do any work. And the other end of the room is where I believe that people are willing to do work, they're happy to, they contribute, it fulfills them, they know their own potential, they want to grow while they are working. XY scale. Where would you put yourself on this scale? It's a nice invitation for a self-reflection. There is no good or bad. I will tell you that afterwards as well. And of course, important thing, we're not born with this, yeah? So it's not something that it should be in your psychological profile and you are born an X or born a Y. But it's our experiences in life that shape it, which is a good news, because if experiences shape it, or shaped it until now, then experiences will shape it in the future also. Yeah? So we're going to use it in our organization development approach, or in the it depends, it's going to become a very important scale. So come on people, let's stand up, and where would you put yourself on this very X and very Y scale? And you see, this is no surprise at all, because with the solution-focused mindset and practice, we are constantly in the Y. We know a big company, it compromises you, it compromises you, I know, I've been there too, so we don't judge, yeah? We don't judge, we know, yeah? But so how we work, how we trust our clients, how we believe in our people, we're actually standing very much on the Y end of the scale. Yeah, but where do our clients stand?
It depends.
It depends, yeah. But are they mainly on this side? Think about the clients, companies you work with or worked for. Are they mainly on this side, or are they?
Many of them are on that side.
Yeah, so let's be a little bit realistic, yeah? So I'll represent them, maybe not at the end. You can set it, because we represent the client now.
I'm the, yeah.
Exactly. And then look, yeah?
But what is, I think, the reason, I mean, of course, you're on purpose. Because when I work within a one-to-one relationship, then I would be far over there.
Yeah.
When people
But in the system, yeah?
In the system, I'm probably in here. You know,
And
that's the...
And don't forget that you work in a system. I'm going to show you in a minute that the system itself is here. Yes.
Yeah.
And the everyday experiences shape where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah? But my point, what I'm trying to make is, we're all standing there, and the client is here. Yeah? And we tell them to trust your people. Invite them into the great open space, and they will figure out the solutions. And you're standing here and you're like, yeah, there are these solution-focused, softy people, and yeah, they have no idea how the corporate world works. The real world, yeah, all the idealists there. So my point is, we can't just stand there and shout from there to come closer. What would you do?
With a rope, maybe?
Yeah, you have to come closer so I can even start having a conversation with you.
So it's a resource that I'm here because I'm already closer.
Yes, because it's a lot easier for you to understand me. It's true, I've worked in a large corporation. I can go a lot easier closer to Stefan because I know what's going on there. I understand. But the whole point is, and from here, we can't shape somebody's, you can create the most wonderful experiences, but from here, I'm not going to go there where you are. You need to come closer and hold my hand.
You don't have to try, I'm
No.
already there. I
Yeah, you can do that.
Take her, hold her hand.
You have to hold my hand and we have to go together. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. The demonstration. You can sit back and I want to tell you why.
I haven't seen this model in ages, and I really like the way you transformed it to us.
Yeah. Because of course it's going to be very important because it defines everything in organizations. Because the ruling mindset will define which reality of the organization is perceived or not. And currently we know about 4 realities. And one of the biggest mistakes we could make is that we only think that every organization is its formal structure, its design. No. We know that if there is a formal structure, there has to be an informal, yes, so something has to counterbalance it. And that's, of course, the social network. That's how interpersonal relationships and networks are built within an organization. We usually say it balances out the power structure. What it does is actually that's how information travels in the organization or how you can influence the organization, not just in the formal structure. Like Janine mentioned this morning that they had the 40 agents, yeah? There were probably 40 people who were very good kind of transformers in the organization to spread a new mindset, a new way of thinking, a new information. So about these 2, you can read tons of literature. But there is a third one which becomes more and more important as companies have to be flexible and adaptable. And this is the value creating reality. What this means is as the work is changing, we come together for projects, work groups, or maybe just a series of meetings with certain type of people around a certain topic. We create value together. And once it's done, it kind of dissembles, yeah? And you as a person in the organization might be part of different circles. You can either fulfill the same role everywhere, maybe you're a project manager or an agile coach in different circles, or you can fulfill different roles. Now, those of you with a sharp eye and the interest in organizational models, you might notice that, but this is how holacracy, sociocracy, the Randon-Hay model looks. Exactly, because those are the organizations where the why mindset, so trust in people and people taking responsibility for their work is very strong. In fact, they build their formal structure around the value creating reality, which means that they are very good in creating circles as long as it's needed, and then they disassemble it and the people go into other circles. But we have this reality in every single organization, even in the large corporations. Then we buy a model that actually we don't know, but actually is about this reality around different products. We can, for example, group people together who are otherwise sitting in different functional units in the organization. So the more the mindset goes to the why, there's more trust, the more we will see this reality. And the last one, the 4th one we know about is the legal reality, which means that we actually see that the value creation doesn't happen only by the employees, but there are different legal entities within the value creating circles, then different legal entities collaborating with each other. That's the ecosystem level, yeah? Because we don't create value just where the company ends. So for example, I worked extensively with a logistics company delivering, for example, the furniture of IKEA or the products of IKEA. So they are part of this value creating process. And then plus them, the logistics company is employing other subcontractors where the lorries belong to and the drivers belong to. But if you want to make an impact where the customers experience better service, whom do you work with? IKEA, the logistics company, the drivers, different companies. They actually all have to come together to make that happen. Yeah? So we can't just think about the formal structure is fading away actually in most organizations, and that's a good thing. So the point is, depending on the mindset, that reality will be more perceived in the organization. So this is why we're not surprised when we go into a large corporation that they only think about themselves in the hierarchy. And you go into a medium-sized company with the 2 CEOs, and they already think about in their value-creating reality, and it's not so important. Maybe there isn't even no structure. And why is this so important? Because when we are designing the process of picking them up from where they are and trying to bring them closer to us, that usually happens not because we think the world is a better place when everybody trusts everybody, but because usually companies talk about this, that they would like to be more agile, they would like to have more initiatives, they would like to, whatever they talk about is always more on the why side, yeah? And then here comes the trick. Where they are, it's very easy to fall into the trap to find or to create a process which satisfies the current mindset. So that's why the big corporations always go for the external experts who tell you the solution. So they design the transformation, the change, the new layout, the new operating model for you. Because, and all those solutions will be about the structure. Because that's the reality they live in. So when they wish for becoming more agile, and then they employ one of the big fours, and then they deliver them the solution based on the structure, did they actually become more adaptable? Can they actually become more agile? No, because it's just satisfied the mindset, but it did not take them a step further. And then I'm not going to read out all the alternatives, but the point I'm trying to make is when we are designing a process, we actually have to be aware of this. Where they are on the scale, what kind of process, where can we hold their hand, yeah? So where can we meet them? And then we have to design a process or co-create a process together with them that every step of it, we're making a step towards their preferred future. Yeah? So if they really want to be agile, then we make a step towards that. So that's actually what we do, and this is why it's super important, the third dimension. So it's not where they are coming from and where is the preferred future, but also what is already there, what can we build on. And that's, again, the more X mindset they are, the more they will think that we have nothing of what we want to have. The more the Y the mindset, the more they will be able to realize that, yeah, we already have done this, we've already done that. So our work is often supporting the evolution, not just of the system, but the evolution of the mindset also in the process. So this is why developing an organization or supporting the evolution is never a one-off act. It's never a one workshop. It's always a process. And then if it's a process, and I started this workshop saying, but we shouldn't think about OD as a project where the externals come in, then we really need the people inside the organization to have the ability to have these conversations, to realize where they are, to be aware how they can pick up someone. And just so that I demonstrated to you, one of my favorite stories is a little HR redesigning the whole portfolio of what HR is offering to the company. And of course, I come in from a Y end. So my suggestion is, oh, how big is your HR team? 15 people all together. Oh, come on. We do a 2-day workshop, and I know I can facilitate out of the whole team. Yeah, what's new? But first we have to ask the clients. So I can support you with some questions and go and talk with your clients inside the organization. So the invitation is very much coming from the why and my initial invitation. And then the head of HR says, no, I want you to talk with our clients because my people will ask the wrong questions. Then I ask, why don't you go and ask the leaders you're supposed to? No, maybe they won't tell me what I should do differently. So you hear already the lack of trust, yeah? So I try, I give you the question, so I prepare it for you. No. So there is this testing, trying game. Then she said, oh, she won't do it. Okay, so I'll do it, we summarize. I said, okay, but I would like to present the summary of it, not just for you. I hate doing diagnoses instead of them, yes? So this was not my favorite part. I said, okay, I can share it with you, but maybe you could invite again, I'll try the whole team. So the whole team hears the feedback from your customer, which you should have asked. You should asking your clients every day, yeah? No, that's not possible. And then I say, okay, so what is possible? She says, yeah, maybe my direct reports. She has 4 team leaders. So then that's how far she can come with me, yeah? So we started from here, that only she wants to know now. We're moving forward, okay, the 4 direct reports. So I present the findings to them, we have this conversation, and then we kind of get the idea, so they have to redesign their portfolio. And I try again. There's only 15 of you. Why don't we have everyone in the workshop? 15 people can come up with more and better solutions than 5 of you. She's again, no. The direct reports. We would like to have our people there. I mean, they are the ones who are in the direct relationship. They know our systems. So it's a dance. But at the end, we had the 15 people on the workshop. Yeah? And this is still the designing of the process. Who will be there when we get to the point that we redesign what we are doing and how we are doing. And then that's a very different outcome that comes out of that. Then if I would have stayed where she is, and then probably at the end she would have expected me also to deliver the solution for their problems. Yeah? So these are the things that we are using when we are designing organization development and design processes in a solution-focused way, because of course we can't just shout from the end of the room, but we have to go and start walking with our clients. That's what I meant. So this is how much could fit into this little demo session. So I would like to offer the last 5 minutes for you to again turn to your partner with whom you started your best hope conversation and just reflect on it. What is it that you're taking away and what else you would like, and 5 minutes reflection, and then we're finishing.